Hey friends, Miss Kiva here. Today we're going to talk about walking water. I know that sounds kind of crazy. I thought about that too. But today we're going to do an experiment where water walks, right? So in this experiment, we're going to have 6 cups. 3 of them are going to have some colored water in them. We've got some paper towels, and then we're going to have 3 empty jars, and we're going to try to make water walk. The reason why we're talking about walking water today is about cause and effect. You've probably heard of this before. I'm sure your teachers have talked about it before. But we're going to talk about it and talk about what the Bible says and some Bible stories of what cause and effect means. Do you know what cause and effect means? So let's talk about what a cause is. A cause is the action before or the reasoning behind something. The effect is what happens after it's occurred. So let's think about this. Say we want water from the sink. We're going to use water in an experiment. The cause is us turning on the faucet, right? We're going to turn on the faucet. And the effect is the water is going to come out of the faucet. Now, if we want to turn off the faucet, what are we going to do to cause that to happen? Aren't we going to push the faucet back? And then what will be the effect? The water will stop coming out of the faucet, right? So God has his people in the Old Testament, and they're called the Israelites. It's just a big fancy way of saying God's people, God's chosen people. And they didn't follow God's instructions or his laws or his commandments. That sound like you? Sometimes you don't obey your parents. Sometimes I don't obey my parents, and I'm supposed to, right? And they ended up in some big trouble. Okay, friends, they ended up in trouble. They ended up going into bondage or slavery, which is the big way of saying they got in trouble and another big group of people took them over and made them work for them. And they made them do hard work. That group of people's names was called the Egyptians. The Egyptians had bondage over the Israelites. And God heard them cry out, and his people said, "We want to be free, God. We want to be free." And God, as he always does, because he's a good God, he worked to free his people. He used Moses and Aaron. Maybe you've heard of them before. And he led his people to the promised land. God had promised his people a special land that would be their own. When he freed them, he promised them that it would be their own land, and they would have tons of room, and there would be food, and there'd be milk and honey. That sounds like heaven, doesn't it? Like, that sounds like a great place. Imagine if God promised you like a land that was free of school and pizza and fun games like all the time. That's essentially what God was kind of promising them, right? And guess what? God freed them from bondage, right? And guess what they started doing? They complained. They complained and they grumbled. Do you complain? We don't like complaining. Complaining's not good because for them we're not grateful, right? And they complained about the food, and then they complained about the water, and they did this every day. But get this, God provided food and water for them all the time. He was with them the entire time. And then God said, enough. Enough is enough. And you know what? God told them, you know that land I promised you? None of you who are in this group right now, you're not going to get to see it. Nope. You're going to go wander through the desert for 400 years. Isn't that crazy? 400 years. Because they were grumbling and complaining. So let's remember, do you remember what our cause was? Our cause is what starts it, right? The cause of this problem was they were grumbling and complaining, and they weren't thankful for what God had done. And the effect was they ended up having to wander through the desert for 400 years. Guys, that's what happens when we don't obey. We get consequences, right? Sometimes we act out in school, and what happens? We get sent to the principal's office, or we hit our brother and sister, and we have to go sit in timeout, or we get grounded. Those are our consequences or our effects. However, aren't there good causes and effects? If there's bad causes and effects, there has to be good causes and effects, right? So what if we get good grades in school, right? Don't we get rewarded for that? Do you get special prizes? Or what if you have really good behavior in school? Maybe you get a treat, maybe you get a good pat on the back. Those are good causes and effects. I want you guys to pay attention to the colors that are happening in our walking water, okay? Remember how I told you that there are 3 colors in our walking water? We've got brown, we've got red, and then we've got like an orangish yellow. And you can see that there are 3 empty jars in between them, and they've got paper towels and the water in between them. Do you see how the colors have melded together and they've made a new color, right? Our cause was the way that we set them up. Remember, we put the paper towels in there, you've got your water with your colors, but now the colors have mixed together and they've created brand new colors. They've created different colors. And maybe if you get to see it, you can see where one color starts and another one stops, or maybe they're all mixed together. It's just going to depend on what colors you use and how much water you use as well. So make sure you look out for to see where the colors meet and where the colors stop. So today I hope we learned a lot about cause and effect. I hope you got to do a really fun experiment and see walking water and see the colors that happen, that when they meld into each other, that you get to see some really cool colors. But today I really hope you remember that there are good consequences and there are bad consequences, but they all start with what we decide to do. Alrighty, friends, goodbye.